Hello class, my name is Francis Marrone. For the Chapter 9 discussions on global inequality, I decided to choose prompt 2 on the global commodity chain. For this particular prompt, I'll be using the example of an Apple iPhone to kind of explain the gist of a global commodity chain and to demonstrate what tracing a commodity from production all the way to consumption tells us about the nature of global economic activity. So global commodity chains are worldwide networks of labor and production processes that yield a finished product. So the Apple iPhone, for example, which is a very popular phone, a lot of people tend to have nowadays. This particular product, while it's sold all throughout America, not one of the 212 million iPhones sold in 2016 were actually made in this country of America. And while Apple does have headquarters in Cupertino, California, and stores nationwide, most of the products that come together to form Apple, and most of the components of the products come from Asia. They come from China, Inner Mongolia, and also places like France and Italy. And essentially why this is because Apple is concerned with cost. One estimate found that if production were to return to the United States, the retail price would go up only $2 to $3, which is a small increase in comparison with the cost. But that's still cutting into the profit margin. And the ultimate kind of overview of a global commodity chain, and it's very prominent in iPhones, is that companies are ultimately concerned about their bottom dollar. So when final assembly occurs in China, it's simply because China can inexpensively produce what's needed when it's needed, largely without regard to human cost of doing so. And what happens is dormitories are built basically overnight, glass suppliers were identified, workers were forced to labor around the clock to meet Apple's deadline, students were literally pulled from the classes on the grounds of doing quote-unquote internships on a Foxconn assembly line, and Foxconn is the company that provides the laborers for Apple, and demanded the workers, reinforced by the Chinese government, to basically work around the clock for nothing. Like I said, because it's all about bottom dollar. You see a lot of companies leave. You see in the United States when taxes start to get a little bit high, simply because it just has to do with profit margins and the cost of production. And also, too, the fact that China has a very growing market for the Apple products. But essentially, global commodity chains, it has to do with where can this product be made. And it's typically in developing countries, and the reason why this is that they're the lowest wage industries. They have They have the cheapest labor and the weakest enforcement of labor laws and environmental regulations. So for the companies, it's very easy to employ grueling, have these grueling shifts and pay nothing to workers. So essentially, like I said, what it just basically shakes down to is the reason why the iPhone, for example, is built in China is for the bottom dollar. And if it were to move to the United States, it would be $2 to $3 more expensive. And think about how many iPhones are produced. For example, 212 million in 2016. You multiply that by 2, you have, $424 million is, that's a lot of money considering it's going to be $2 more an iPhone. So you just kind of have to think about the overall scale of production and the labor cost. And essentially, these companies do it where they can cheapestly do it. And that's pretty much it. I hope everyone stays well and they're hanging in there.